Okay, today we are going to discuss about the external ear. Okay. External ear and eustachian tube. Today class is about the external ear and the eustachian tube. Okay. So here you can see the ear part. Okay. So the ear is consist of mainly three parts. These are the external ear, outer, middle ear, and internal ear. What is the function of external ear? It collects and conducts the sound waves from the air to the tympanic membrane. Okay, it collects the sound from the environment and it is conducts to the this tympanic membrane, this blue color one. Okay, which is vibrated to the all the frequencies. Okay, so the middle ear is a bony cavity which is present in the petrous part of temporal bone. Okay, which is lined by the mucous membrane. Okay, and it is filled with the air. Okay, so the contents within the middle ear is the ossicles and the muscles. Okay, so what is the function of this middle ear? So this middle ear is it intensifies the force of sound vibration. Okay, intensifies the force of sound vibration. That is the function of middle ear. Okay, next we will have the internal ear. Okay, so the internal ear is consist of these organ of Corti, okay, and the labyrinthus, all those things. Is it now? And cochlea and semicircular canals. Okay, so all these things are consist as internal ear. So what is the function of this internal ear? It conveys the sound energy into nerve energy. Okay, it conveys the sound energy into nerve energy. Okay, so that is the function of internal ear. Okay, so these are the three parts of the ear. Okay, so we will have the outer external ear, middle ear, and internal ear. Okay, so today class is about the external ear. Okay, so the external ear is consist of mainly two parts, that is auricle. Okay, that is the auricle or pinna, and external auditory canal. External auditory canal. It consists of mainly two parts, that is the auricle and external auditory canal. Okay, so first we will discuss about this auricle. Okay, so what is auricle? Okay, so this auricle, it is a single piece of yellow elastic cartilage which is covered by the perichondrium and the skin. Okay, it is the single piece of yellow elastic cartilage which is covered with the perichondrium and the skin. Except here we don't have the cartilage here. Okay, here we'll have the within the lobule we will have the only the fibrofatty tissue is there. Okay, so except the outer part of the external auditory canal and this lobule, here we'll have the fibrofatty tissue. The remaining part is it is made up of by the single yellow elastic cartilage. Okay, so it is a trumpet like undulating projection from the side of the head and collects. What is the function of these pinna or auricle? So it collects the sound vibrations from the environment. Okay, next, what are the different parts of this auricle? So here you can see the helix. Is it now? All this is pinna, na? Pinna or auricle. Here we will have the helix. So the helix forms the prominent peripheral rim. Okay, the helix forms the prominent peripheral rim. It's for this helix we will have the anterior limb and this is posterior limb. Okay, anterior limb and this is posterior limb. So the anterior limb descends as the crus of helix. As the crus of helix. Okay, as the crus of helix into the concha. This depression is called as concha. Okay, this is concha. not this one. This is crus of helix. I don't want any noise between the class. Please mute yourself, all of you. So this anterior limb of the helix is descend downwards as the crus of helix. Okay, crus of helix. This is concha, not this one. Here it is wrong. This is concha. This is crus of helix. Okay, and in this crus of helix are into the concha and divides this concha into two parts: the upper small part and lower the larger part. Okay. So this helix, the descending, the posterior descending limb of the helix is sometimes it presents a tubercle. It is called as Darwin tubercle. Okay, Darwin tubercle. Okay, so for the helix, we will have this the prominent peripheral limb. So it has the anterior limb and the posterior limb. Okay. So the anterior limb is directed downwards into the concha as the crus of helix. This crus of helix divides the concha into upper small part and lower larger part. Okay. And if you see that the posterior limb, you can see the Darwin tubercle sometimes. Okay, next coming to this antihelix. Okay, so antihelix is another prominent peripheral margin. Okay, antihelix is another peripheral margin. Okay, which is present parallel to this helix in front of the helix. Okay, so it is partially encircles a deep depression. Okay, if you all of you feel your auricle, Arpina. Okay, so this is helix. In front of the helix, we'll have the antihelix. Is it now? It is present parallel to this helix in front of the helix. Is it now? So it is partially encircles a deep depression. Okay. This conch of auricle. Okay. This is concha. Okay. So it encircles this concha. Okay. If you trace above this antihelix, it divides into two crushes. Okay. If you see that this antihelix above, it is divides into two limbs. Okay. And which includes as a depression. Okay. This depression is called as triangular fossa. Okay. Triangular fossa. Okay. Anteriorly, this antihelix divides into two limbs which encircles a triangular fossa. Okay. The depression which is present helix and antihelix is called as scaphoid fossa. Okay. Narrow gutter shaped depression between the helix and antihelix is scaphoid fossa. What is triangular fossa? Triangular fossa is the depression present between these anterior two limbs of antihelix. Okay. And this is concha. This depression is concha. Is it now? This concha is guarded in front by the triangular flap of cartilage. It is called as tragus. So this is tragus. Okay. So opposite to the tragus, we will have the another cartilage flap is there. It is called as antitragus. This is tragus. Opposite that, we will have the antitragus. These two tragus, antitragus and tragus, are separated by intertragic notch. Okay, intertragic notch. Okay. And a small part of the concha which is present above the crus. This is crus of helix. Okay, here the labeling is lost. This is crus of helix. This is concha. Okay, all this depression is concha. Here we will have the opening, that is the external acoustic meatus. Okay, so this concha above the crus of helix, this concha this part is called as cymba conchae. Okay, cymba conchae. Okay, which is provide topographical position for the suprameatal to enter the suprameatal triangle. Okay. So the large area below this concha, below this crus of helix, okay, which is present that surrounds the external acoustic meatus. Okay, the large area which is present below the crus of helix is surrounds the external acoustic meatus. Okay, so these are the different parts, and another part is also there, that is the lobule. Okay, so lobule is the lobule of the ear, hangs below the antitragus as the skin covered flap of fibrofatty tissue. Okay, fibrofatty tissue. Okay, so these are the different parts of the auricle. Okay, so we'll have the helix, antihelix, helix, antihelix. Within the antihelix, we'll have the triangular fossa. Between the helix and antihelix, we'll have the scaphoid fossa. Okay, above the crus of helix, this depression is called as symboconche. Remaining larger is, it is the beginning for the external acoustic meatus. We'll have the tragus, antitragus, and the lobule is fibrofatty, made up of by the fibrofatty tissue. Okay. Next, coming to the, if you see the this auricle, you will have the two surfaces. Is it not? The outer one is, this is the lateral surface, which is towards the skull is, scalp is, it is the cranial surface. Okay. For this auricle, we will have the two surfaces. Okay, we will have the lateral surface, and the towards the scalp is the cranial surface. Okay, so next, coming to the along the cranial surface of the auricle, we will have the elevations corresponding to these depressions. We will have the elevations. Okay, these are called as eminentia conchae. Okay, opposite to this conchae is called as eminentia conchae. Okay, opposite to this triangular fossa is eminentia triangularis. Okay. Next, coming to the muscles of these auricles. The muscles of the auricles are again two sets. Okay. Okay. So for the surrounding the auricle, we have the muscles. So these are again divided into external and internal. Okay. So extrinsic muscles are, they includes the auricularis anterior. Here we have the auricularis anterior, auricularis posterior, or auricularis superior. Okay. Auricularis anterior and superior, these muscles are arises from the epicranial aponeurosis. Okay, which is the third layer in the scalp. Is it not? So they are arises from the epicranial aponeurosis, and they are inserted to the spine of helix. Okay, here they are inserted here. Okay, and this auricularis posterior muscle is, it is present here. We'll have the mastoid process. Behind the auricle, we'll have the mastoid process is there. Na? So it is attached to the mastoid process of the temporal bone. Okay, mastoid process of the temporal bone to the this eminentia conchae. Okay, eminentia conchae. Okay, next, coming to the, what is the nerve supply for these muscles? So the nerve supply for these muscles, auricularis anterior, auricularis superior. Okay, these two muscles are supplied by the, these two muscles are supplied by the temporal branch of facial nerve. Okay, the temporal branch of facial nerve, and this auricularis posterior is supplied by the posterior auricular nerve. Okay, posterior auricular nerve. Okay, so that is about the nerve supply of these two muscles. Okay, posterior auricular branch of facial nerve and temporal branch of facial nerve. Okay, so these two muscles are supplied. Okay, what is the action of these muscles? So they move the auricle as a whole. Okay, so but these muscles are, they are not that prominent in humans. Okay, so those are the extrinsic muscle. Next, coming to the intrinsic muscles. So intrinsic muscles, this includes the helicis major, helicis minor, tragicus, antitragicus, transversus auricularis. So these are the different muscles, intrinsic muscles of this auricle. Okay, so but these muscles are there not prominent in humans. They are prominent in the lower animals. If you see the rabbit will raise their ears. Is it now? Due to these muscles, intrinsic muscles. Okay. So these intrinsic muscles are also supplied by the same nerves. Okay. So that is the temporal branch and the posterior auricular branch of the facial nerve. Okay. So that is about this facial nerve. Next, coming to the ligaments. The ligaments of the auricles, they are so the ligaments of auricles. So the ligaments are also present in two types, extrinsic and intrinsic. Okay. Are you able to see in the screen? Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So next, coming to the something happened to my laptop. Just wait for 2 minutes. Okay, till now we discussed about the intrinsic ligaments. Okay, next coming to the skin of the auricle. The skin of the auricle is, are you able to hear me, students?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the skin of the auricle, it is adherent to the cartilage and it is furnished with the so many sebaceous glands. Okay, so many sebaceous glands in the concha and the scaphoid fossa. Okay, sometimes the coats here is also, we can see the projects from out of these external ear. Okay. Next, coming to the arterial supply. Okay, next coming to the arterial supply. So the arterial supply of this auricle is, it is supplied by the posterior auricular branch. Okay, so along the cranial surface. Okay, so this is lateral surface, this is cranial surface, is it now? So along the, I'm telling about the arterial supply, not the nerve supply. I'm showing this diagram only. Okay, I'm showing this diagram. Okay, so coming to this arterial supply of the auricle, the posterior auricular branch of external carotid artery supplies the cranial surface. Okay, so this cranial surface is supplied by the external carotid artery branch, posterior auricular. Okay, posterior auricular branch of external carotid artery supplies the cranial surface, and along with that, the posterior part of the lateral surface of the auricle. Okay, so these two surfaces, the cranial surface, total cranial surface, along with that, the posterior part of the lateral surface of the auricle is supplied by the posterior auricular branch of external carotid artery. Okay. And the anterior auricular branches there are branches coming from the superficial temporal artery. Both are coming from the external carotid artery only. Okay. So anterior auricular branches coming from the superficial temporal artery supplies the anterior part of the lateral surface of the this auricle. So cranial surfaces and along with the posterior part of the lateral surfaces, both are supplied by the posterior auricular branches coming from the external carotid artery. But coming this anterior part of the lateral surface is supplied by the anterior auricular branches, which are branches coming from the superficial temporal artery. Okay. Next, coming to the venous drainage, these two are drains into the same. So they are drains into superficial temporal vein along with the external jugular vein. Okay. Superficial temporal and external jugular veins. Okay. So beneath this skin of this auricle, we will have the arteriovenous anastomosis is present. Okay, arteriovenous anastomosis are present below the skin of this auricle. That's why in the winter seasons, when there are cracks are seen on the along the lateral surface, what's happening? So when the cracks are seen on along this skin, okay, it will be painful. Is it now? Why? Because just below the skin we will have the arteriovenous anastomosis is present. Is it now? Yes. So that is about the skin of this auricle. Okay, next coming to the lymphatic drainage. What are the lymphatic lymph nodes are present around this auricle? Just in front that we will have the parotid gland is there. In front of the auricle, we will have the parotid lymph nodes are there. Behind that, we'll have the mastoid lymph nodes are also there. And here in the neck, we have the deep cervical lymph nodes are there. Is it not? So these lymph nodes are drains to this auricle. Okay. So these lymph nodes are drains the auricle. Okay. And next coming to the nerve supply of this auricle. Nerve supply. So the nerve supply of this auricle, it is supplied by the most of the medial surface is nothing but this cranial surface. Is it not? So the most of the medial surface of the pinna and the posterior part of the lateral surface is supplied by the greater auricular nerve. Okay. The upper part of medial surface is supplied by the lesser occipital. Okay. And the tragus, crus of helix, adjacent part of the helix is supplied by the auriculotemporal nerve. Okay. So that is about the nerve supply of the pinna. Okay. Greater auricular nerve, lesser occipital, and auriculotemporal branch of the hagus. Okay. So that is about the nerve supply of the auricle. Okay. Any doubts regarding this auricle? I think no, because it is very easy. So next coming to the external auditory canal. Okay. Next coming to the external auditory canals. The external auditory canal, all of you see almost norma lateralis is finished now. If you see along the norma lateralis, you can see the external acoustic meatus opening is there. The bony part of the external acoustic meatus you can see on the norma lateralis. Is it now? So the external auditory canal, it is extends from the bottom of the concha. Okay, the bottom of the concha to the tympanic membrane. Okay, so the length of the external auditory canal is around 24 mm. It is not a straight tube. Okay, so it is not a straight tube. So it has the external acoustic meatus has the two parts. the outer cartilaginous part, inner bony part. Okay. So in this, if you see the course of external auditory canal, it is divided into 3 parts. Okay. So these are the pars externa, pars intermedia, and pars interna. Okay. So the pars externa, okay, the pars externa is, which is almost, if you see this external acoustic canal, it is like S-shaped. Okay. So the pars externa is, first, it is directed upwards, forwards, and medially. All are towards the medial side. Okay. So upwards, forwards, and medially. Next, if you see the pars intermedia, upwards, backwards. Okay. Like S shape. All of you imagine this S shape. Okay. First, pars interna, externa is forwards, upwards, medially. Okay. Pars intermedia is forwards, backwards, medially. Okay. Pars interna is, it is directed upwards, forwards, medially. Okay. Upwards, forwards, medially. It is like S-shaped. Okay. So if you want to see the tympanic membrane and external acoustic canal is clearly, you have to pull the auricle. First you have to straight this auricle. Is it now? So you have to pull the auricle. Okay. Upwards, backwards, and laterally. Okay. Upwards, backwards, and laterally. Okay. If you drag this like this, you can see this external acoustic canal clearly. Okay. So next, coming to the subdivisions we have, all of you know. So we have the 2 parts, cartilaginous part, outer cartilaginous part, and inner bony part. Okay. The outer cartilaginous part is, it is continuous with the cartilaginous part of the concha. Okay. So this cartilaginous part is, in the, it is lateral 1/3. Okay. The bony part, it is medial 2/3. The cartilaginous part is continuous with the concha of the auricle. In the upper and the posterior part of the meatus of the cartilage, something is happening. So sometimes along this anterior wall of this cartilaginous part, we can see the fissures. These fissures are called as fissures of Santorini. Okay. So these fissures of Santorini, the parotid and superficial muscular infection can appear in this canal. Okay. These are the fissures along the anterior wall of this cartilaginous part. These are called as fissure of Santorini. Okay. Through them, the parotid and superficial, the mastoid infections can appear in these canals. Okay. So here the skin of this covering cartilaginous canal is heat. Here it is thick and contains the appendages like the ceruminous glands, which are modified sweat glands, which secretes the wax. Okay. Cerumen. Okay. So they prevent the maceration of the skin of these auditory, this external acoustic canal. They prevent the skin maceration. Okay. So along with that, we will have the pilosebaceous glands are also there, and hair is only confined to the outer canal. So therefore, furnicles is nothing but the infection. Okay. Infection in the hair follicles. Okay. Due to that, the hair will become very hard. Okay. The furnicles are seen only in the outer 1/3 of the canal. because the hair is present only in the cartilaginous part. Okay. So next coming to the bony part. So the bony part is, it is nothing but the inner 2/3 of the external auditory canal. Okay. The skin lining the bony canal is here, it is thin. Okay. And it is continuous over the tympanic membrane. Okay, here it is devoid of skin appendages. There is no skin and ceruminous glands. Okay, so about 6 mm lateral to the tympanic membrane, the bony meatus presents a narrowing. It is called as isthmus. Okay, it is called as isthmus. So in the course of this canal, we will have the two constrictions are there. Two constrictions are there. The external meatus presents two constrictions at the junction of the bony and cartilaginous part is one. Another one is the isthmus. Okay, so the isthmus is the bony part which lies about 2 centimeters deep to the concave. Okay, it is the narrowest part of these two constrictions. Okay, so the clearance of this constriction without any injury is an important task during the removal of foreign bodies which are present in the meatus. Okay, so what is the lining epithelium of this external meatus? So the outer cartilaginous part is lined by skin. Okay, the inner part is along with the skin. In the bony part, the skin is very thin. Along with that, it is continuous with the outer layer of the tympanic membrane. Okay. So next coming to what are the relations of these external meatus? So if you see here, this is external acoustic meatus. Okay, what are the structures present here? So in front of this external acoustic meatus, we will have this is the head of the mandible. Okay, this head of the mandible and this external acoustic meatus they are separated by this parotid gland. Okay, so above the bony part, we will have the floor of the middle cranial fossa. Okay, above this bony part of the first we will have the cartilaginous part, then deep to that we will have the bony part, is it not? So the bony part is above, it is separated by the middle cranial fossa and the epitympanic recess of the tympanic cavity. Okay, so the posterior superior to this bony part, here you will have the mastoid antrum. Okay, mastoid bone, mastoid antrum, separated by the mastoid air cells. Okay, so that is the relations of external acoustic meatus. In front is the head of the mandible separated by the parotid gland. Above is middle cranial fossa, just posterior superior. Here we'll have the mastoid antrum. Okay. Next coming to the blood supply of this external acoustic meatus. So the artery supplies these external acoustic meatus are again the same thing. So these are the posterior auricular branch of the external carotid artery and also the deep auricular branch from the maxillary artery. Okay. Along with the anterior and posterior auricular branches, here we will have the extra branch, that is the deep auricular branch coming from the maxillary. Okay, the remaining are same like the auricle. These are the posterior auricular, anterior auricular. Posterior auricular are branched from the external carotid, anterior auricular coming from the superficial temporal artery. Okay. So what is the venous drainage? Again the same, they are drained into the external jugular vein and superficial temporal vein. Okay, so that is about the venous drainage. Next coming to the nerve supply. So the nerve supply, here the roof and so the external acoustic meatus, it is like a cube-like. Okay, is it now? So the roof and anterior wall are supplied by the auriculotemporal nerve. The roof and anterior wall is supplied by the auriculotemporal nerve, and the floor and the posterior wall is supplied by the auricular branch of the vagus. Okay, floor and the posterior wall is supplied by the auricular branch of vagus. The roof and the anterior wall is supplied by the auriculotemporal nerve. Auriculotemporal nerve, and this is vagus nerve. Okay. So it is also called as the nerve of Alderman's. It is the only sensory. nerve of the vagus nerve. Okay. So that is about the external acoustic meatus. Next, coming to the applied. Okay. So excessive accumulation of ear wax. Okay, excessive accumulation of ear wax. So excessive accumulation of ear wax is called as cereminosis. Cereminosis. Okay. Sometimes blocks the meatus. Okay. So it will impede the transduction of sounds from the environment to the tympanic membrane. Okay. So to wash this cerumen, mostly we are using the syringing the meatus with a lukewarm water. Sometimes what will happen, if we suddenly we will push the warm water into the external acoustic meatus, the patient may start coughing or vomiting reflexly due to the irritation of the auricular branch of the vagus. Okay, auricular branch of the vagus. Okay, due to similar reason, occasionally the heart failure may be occurs due to the sudden in elderly patients due to the stimulation of vagus. Okay, and next to the inflammation of the external meatus is extremely painful because here the skin is adherent to the surrounding structures. So subcutaneous collection of anything will lead to produces too much pain in the auricle and this external acoustic meatus. Sometimes the toothache may also radiate into the ear due to the referred pain. Okay. So that is about the external acoustic meatus and the auricle. Coming to the next topic. 1 minute. External eustachian tube. Okay. The nasopharyngeal tube. 1 minute, students. We will be back. So the eustachian tube, what is the other name for the eustachian tube? Where it is present? So the other name for the eustachian tube. So the other name for the eustachian tube is the pharyngotympanic tube. Why it is called as like that? So it is extends from the nasopharynx to the middle ear cavity. That's why it is called as pharyngotympanic tube, or also called as auditory tube. Okay, so these are the different names for the eustachian tube. Okay, so it is the mucus lined osteocartilaginous. Sorry, mucus lined osteo and cartilaginous. Okay, ostium bony part and cartilaginous part. It is mucus lined osteocartilaginous tube which connects the nasopharynx with the tympanic cavity. Tympanic cavity is nothing but it is the cavity which is present within the middle ear. Okay. So what is the function of this eustachian tube? To maintain the equilibrium between this middle ear and the on the both the sides of this tympanic membrane. To maintain the equilibrium, same pressure on the both the sides of the tympanic membrane. Okay. So what is the total length of this eustachian tube? That is 36 mm. Here we have the two parts, bony part and the cartilaginous part. So the osseous and bony part, it is posterolateral part. Okay, posterolateral part, and forms the only 1/3 of the. So total length is 36 mm. Now in that it is 12 mm. In that it is 12 mm. and it is lies between this tympanic and petrous part of the temporal bone and opens into the middle ear cavity. Okay. Next, coming to the cartilaginous part, it is anteromedial part. Okay, and forms the 2/3 of the tube. Okay, so the two parts are that the meeting point of bony part and cartilaginous part. This narrow part is called as isthmus. Okay, narrowest part is called as isthmus. The cartilaginous part is made up of by a single piece of yellow elastic cartilage like the auricle. Okay, here also it is made up of with a single yellow elastic cartilage. Okay, and this fibroelastic cartilage here you can see, is it now? Here it is folded inwards. Okay, this cartilaginous part is folded inwards. Okay, it is folded inwards. Okay, which is folded upon itself in a such a way that it forms the whole of its medial wall. Okay, forms the medial wall and the roof and then a part of lateral wall. It is folded up upon itself. Okay, and the rest of the lateral wall is filled by the fibrous membrane. Okay, so this here it is formed. This lateral wall is represented by the light blue color. The remaining, the medial, the roof, floor, and medial wall is represented by the dark blue. Okay, so at the middle it is folded upon itself only. So we will have the four. It is folded like this, and we will have the four walls: roof, floor, and middle one, lateral wall. Okay, lateral wall is filled by the fibrous membrane. Okay, the remaining part, the medial wall, roof, and floor are formed by the cartilaginous part. Okay, so where this cartilaginous part is present? So it is present within the both petrous part of the temporal bone and the posterior border of the greater wing of the spina. It is called as sulcus tubae. Sulcus tubae. I will show you in the dissection hall today. Sulcus tubae. Okay, which is present between the petrous part of temporal bone and the greater wings of spina. Sulcus tubae. Within that sulcus tubae, we will have the cartilaginous part of the eustachian tube is present. Okay. So next, coming to the what are the two ends of these tubes? The tympanic end. Okay. So which is towards the opens into the tympanic cavity is tympanic end. Okay. Here we have the pharyngeal end. Okay. So the tympanic end of this tube is small and bony. Okay, and it is situated in the anterior wall of the middle ear, a little above its floor. The pharyngeal end is situated in the lateral wall of the pharynx. I already shown in the dissection along the lateral wall of sagittal section of the head and neck. I showed already. Okay, the opening of pharyngeal end, which is covered by the tubal elevation. Is it now? So the pharyngeal end is relatively large and it is a slit-like and it is situated in the posterior wall of the pharynx, okay, which is present behind the post-inferior nasal concha. Okay, the pharyngeal orifice is the wide part of the tube. What is the lining of this tube? Okay, so the tube is lined by what is the lining epithelium? Here it is the pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium. Okay, so pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium. Okay, so the cilia present in these tubes, it beats in the direction of nasopharynx. Okay, that helps the drains the middle ear contents into the nasopharynx. Okay, so that is the lining epithelium of this tube. Next to the pharyngotympanic tube of the infant. Difference between these eustachian tube of an adult and an infant. Okay, what is the length in infants? The length is around 18 mm, but in the adults it is 36 mm. Okay, the direction is different between the infants and the adults. Okay, so direction is, it is more or less horizontal. Okay, it is horizontally present. Okay, in the infants it is present horizontal, but when coming to the adults it is present obliquely like this. Okay, obliquely like this. Okay, so so the angle between these between this tube and these horizontal plane, The angle is almost 10 degrees in the infants, but when coming to the adults, it is around 45 degrees. Okay, so angulation of isthmus is also, there is no angulation between the this bony part and cartilaginous part in the infants. Okay, so these are the differences between the these infants and the adults. Okay, so since the eustachian tube is shorter, wider, and more horizontal in section, so the infections from the nasopharynx can easily spread to the middle ear. Okay. So next, coming to the what are the functions of these eustachian tube? Okay. So the main function of these eustachian tube is to maintain the equilibrium on the both the sides of the tympanic membrane. Okay. So at rest, the tube remains closed. Okay. It is opens during the sneezing, coughing, yawning, and swallowing. Okay, yawning and swallowing. During these times, the eustachian tube is opens. Okay, remaining in all times, it is closed. Okay, so the protection of middle ear by preventing the transmission of high sound pressure from the nasopharynx into the middle ear. As in normally, the tube remains closed. Okay, so it prevents the middle ear by preventing the transmission of high sound pressure from nasopharynx to the middle ear, as normally the tube remains low. And clearance of middle ear also. Ear secretions by active opening and closing of this tube. The cilia of the mucus is also which is directed to beats towards the direction of nasopharynx. So they drain the secretions from the middle ear to this nasopharynx. So these are the functions. Mainly the function is maintain the equilibrium on both the sides of the tympanic membrane. Okay, and also drains the middle ear into the tympanic cavity into the nasopharynx. Okay, and also prevents the transmission of high sounds from the nasopharynx to the middle ear cavity. So these are the main functions of this eustachian tube. Okay, next coming to the applied aspects. So the pharyngotympanic tube equalizes the pressure in the middle ear with the atmospheric pressure. Okay, to provide the free movements of the tympanic membrane. If the tube is blocked due to the inflammation of tubal tonsil, a residual air in the middle ear is absorbed into the blood vessels of mucous membrane, causing a fall pressure in its fall pressure on the tympanic membrane. So it will lead to retraction of the tympanic membrane. Normally, what is the function of this eustachian tube? It equalizes the pressure on both the sides. Is it not? If there is any block here, this tympanic membrane will be, so here the pressure is less. So the tympanic membrane is retracted towards the middle ear cavity. Okay, if there is any block in this eustachian tube, the tympanic membrane is retracted towards the middle ear cavity. So this causes the disturbance in the hearing. Okay, and severe earache due to the retraction of tympanic membrane. Okay, so persistent reduced air pressure within the middle ear is corrected by the periodic introduction of air by the eustachian catheter. Okay, through the eustachian catheter, we will push the air into the this middle ear cavity to reduce the retraction of tympanic membrane. Okay, so that is about this eustachian tube. There is nothing about the eustachian tube. Eustachian tube mainly two parts, where it is present, what are the parts, what are the ends, okay, and what is the function. So that is about this eustachian tube. That much knowledge about the eustachian tube is enough for you. Okay. And this is a section now. All of it, I showed in the dissection hall. Here we have the eustachian tube. The pharyngeal opening is present. Just above that, we will have the tubal elevation. That is that the tubal tonsils are present. Okay. For the opening and closure of these eustachian tube, we will have the muscles. Is it not? So these are the levator villi palatine, tensor villi palatine muscles are there. Next, coming to the nerve supply. Okay, so the sensory and parasympathetic is by the tympanic branch of glossopharyngeal nerve. Okay, so the muscles are supplied by the cranial part of spinal accessory via the vagus nerve, pharyngeal flexus. Okay, we're already learned in the soft palate. Right now, so that is about the eustachian tube or nasopharyngeal tube, auditory tube. Okay, so like this, we will have the eustachian tube is like this. So thank you all. If you have any doubts regarding these, you can ask me in the discussion hall now. Okay, when you come to the discussion hall now, you can ask me now. Very small topic regarding eustachian tube and the auricle. Okay, anybody have any doubts? Say yes or no. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Any doubts?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am.